Gonzaga UCLA just wrapped up, and as I said at the top of the show, a tale of two halves, and I say that ironically, but I also say that literally because if you watch this game, UCLA was up big at halftime, and they were dominating in the first half. Gonzaga just couldn't walk anywhere without turning the basketball over. It was leading to points for UCLA. It just felt like UCLA was completely in control of the first half. But the thing that caught my attention, right, halftime interview, Mick Cronin, he's, he mentions that they're down 2 starters, which of course they are, right? Jalen Clark is out. He's behind the bench. It was good to see him. I know he's been doing, his medical stuff. So, he's been out of the way, didn't go to the first 2 games, but good to have him behind the bench. But also Adem Bona, who had the shoulder injury. So the starting 5-man, the Pac-12 freshman of the year, is not playing in this game. So Mick Cronin mentions that going into halftime. We're down 2 starters, and he was like, and I got to remind Tiger Campbell and Jaime Jaquez that we got other guys on the court. They got to pass them the ball. And he said it kind of tongue-in-cheek, but when he said that, Kyle, red flag. My eyebrows were raised because I said, okay, UCLA is up. They're up double digits. But I also remembered that this is what this Gonzaga team does, right? They have 6 comebacks this season of 10 or more points. And if you watched the aircraft carrier game to start the year, that was almost like the precursor to this game. It was Gonzaga being down to Michigan State. It felt like Michigan State was going to win. And then all of a sudden, here he comes, stroking that mustache. Timmy! Drew Timme. Of course, this was the Drew Timme game. And in the second half, the Zags kind of struggled with the pick and roll of UCLA. But in the second half, they turned up the defense. And Drew Timme just, kind of went unconscious a little bit in the second half. And, second chance points were a big part of that. Gonzaga was killing it on the glass. I mean, they get 20-plus rebounds in the rebounding margin by the end of this game. And Drew Timme, one of the plays that kind of stood out to me in the second half was, it's 63-61. Drew Timme's on the block. Kenneth Nuba, who's a 5th-year senior who is now playing because of Bona being out. Mac Etienne is also rotating in, but UCLA's down. They're 5-man, like I said. That means it's Timme time. Timme with a little spin move there, overpowers him one-on-one in the post. And, the Stan Van Gundy's on the call, SVG, and he's saying, you can't leave this guy singled. You can't leave Drew Timme singled because, as we know, every big, if you're a legit big and you're an A1 big, you're expecting to get doubled. But they're not doubling him because they're worried about guys like Malachi Smith and Hunter Salas and Julian Strother hitting shots, from 3 and just basically trying to keep them at bay and saying, look, if we're going to lose tonight, we'll let Drew Timme beat us one-on-one. And guess what Drew Timme did? He beat them pretty much one-on-one. I mean, dominated in the second half. They did the classic. This is one of my favorite stats that they do, Kyle, in basketball. They show the star player, and they give you his stats, and then they do rest of team. At one point, Drew Timme had 35 points, and the rest of the team had 33 points. And this was about 3:25 to go in the game. Malachi Smith's defense, I wanted to point this out, his defense was great on Tiger Campbell in the second half. That was a real big difference in this game. And one, big shot in this game was for Drew Timme to win the race to 69 at the free throw line. That was about with 3:25 to go. And when he won the race to 69, they cut to the crowd. And who did I see, Kyle? Terrell Owens, T.O. in the crowd pulling for Gonzaga. I have no idea why T.O. is a Gonzaga fan. If anyone out there, any friends of the program, could do some research for me, I would love to hear that. But big moment for the Zags. They take the lead, and as this is all happening, all the momentum is going. They get up by 9 points. They throw up the Timme record, right? Timme's record at Gonzaga, officially now, at the time it was 120-12. He's now 121-12 at Gonzaga. I'll say that again.
What?
Drew Timme's record at Gonzaga is 121 wins and 12 losses. Okay, so this guy's an all-timer. This guy, he has the most 20-plus point games in NCAA tournament history. 10, got it tonight, broke the record, Bill Bradley's record. So there you go. So Drew Timme's on fire. Like I said, the Zags are doing great on defense, the pick and roll defense. UCLA just kind of goes cold in the second half. I think they ended up shooting like 25, 27%. But then with about 1:14 to go in this game, here he comes, folks. My favorite player on the West Coast, Jaime Jaquez Jr., gets an and one with about 1:14 to go. It gets another and one with about 45 seconds to go. And all of a sudden, they cut it to 3. UCLA is on a 9-2 run. It's 74-71 at this point. and, you kind of start to feel it. And this is the critical moment and almost was the game-changing play. So there's a foul. Anton Watson has the ball in the backcourt. UCLA, again, down 3. So they don't have to foul because of the time, right? We've got about 40 seconds to go in the game. But they foul Watson. They put Watson on the free throw line. Kyle and I are sitting there. I'm like, I think that was a good foul. I think that was like...
And then you see the stat.
Right. So I'm like, oh, wow, that was actually a great foul because he scouted and knew that Anton Watson was a 57% free throw shooter. Watson goes, bricks both free throws, gets pulled out of the game at that point. Anyways, fast forward, Tiger Campbell comes down. UCLA is down 75-73. Tiger Campbell kicks it out to Amari Bailey. Amari Bailey hits an insane three. Like a big shot Chauncey Billups kind of shot. 76-75. UCLA goes on a 10-1 run in 41 seconds. The building is rocking in Vegas. Everyone's looking around and saying, oh my God, is UCLA about to pull off one of those comebacks? And look, this is the exact date of Adam Morrison, 2006, when it felt like Gonzaga had the game in hand and they completely choked it away. Jordan Farmar, the past, we all remember that moment in time. So it felt like maybe that was in the air again. And that was until Julian Strawther, they take a timeout, Gonzaga does, Mark Few. And, Drew Timme had missed 2 free throws, by the way. I forgot about that. He missed 2 free throws. He's a 63% free throw shooter. So that was almost a dire situation there. But Julian Strawther comes in to save the day. They take a timeout. Mark Few says after the game that they practice this all the time in practice. They run this play. It's very eerily similar to the Chris Jenkins play. And I remember Jay Wright talking about, Chris Jenkins. We run that little trailer 3 toss back all the time. And that's exactly what Gonzaga runs here. They toss it back to Strawther. Strawther's on the logo, on the March Madness logo. Just like what a moment, what a shot. And takes the deep 3, dead on, straight shot, legs behind him, exactly what you want, hits the 3, and, gives Gonzaga the lead. And that was the game. And what an amazing moment. What an amazing shot. And especially when you realize that Strawther is from Las Vegas, right? So he's literally playing in his hometown in Las Vegas where he played high school basketball and hits one of the biggest shots we've seen. And I don't really know what else to say about this game other than please sign me up every single time. Every single time that UCLA is playing Gonzaga, I want to be there. I want to watch it. I want to see what happens. It looked like this game was going to be a dud. The first game in Vegas was a total dud. I mean, UConn blew out Arkansas. It was just a big-time dud. And then this game, I even said to you, Kyle, right? When I was going
to say, I think it's a good thing your shit talk doesn't make it all the way to Twitter.
Right.
And you can just parse out the way you want to. So good job on your restraint.
Sometimes it's better to keep things to yourself. And honestly, I'll tell you this. I'll break a little the fourth wall on Twitter. Sometimes, Kyle, when I want things to happen, I tweet the opposite so I can jinx it into, into reality. Because that's how things work on Twitter. Whenever you say something that's great, like you're like, this guy's unbelievable, right? Something bad happens.
Sure.
He turns the ball over, whatever it is. So sometimes you just got to play the game.
When I used to wait for my PS2 games to load, I would act like if I didn't care about it and I look away, then it would happen faster. It's sort of the same thing. You're just trying to speed up the desired reaction.
Right.
I get it. I like it.
Right. Well, that's all I can do in this world of takes, in this world of Twitter. It's all fun and games until it's not. Also, shout out to the One Shining Parlay. Did not hit. I got right logic, wrong pick. I had Gonzaga up at halftime, but UCLA to win the game. The opposite happened. UCLA up at halftime, Gonzaga to win the game. So to all the people that are waiting on pins and needles for the OSP parlay, we apologize.
That was funny in the beginning of that game. I mean, it was probably like only 6 minutes in. We were joking like, would it be funny if the opposite happened? And funny it was.
It's always funny, Kyle. It's always funny. I'm literally Joe Pesci. I'm like, funny how, every single time it happens. All right, so that was a historic game. That to me, that may have been the best game of the tournament, and it might be in competition with the game prior, and that game was in Madison Square Garden, a historic night in Madison Square Garden. Noel. It was a work of art. And one of the common things that we talk about when it gets into the tournament is we're looking for Kimba candidates always, right? A guard that can just control a game, either with scoring or without scoring, that just kind of has a stranglehold on what's going to happen. A true point guard, right? That's what it is. Someone that can just absolutely change the trajectory of a team and a season. And we have it with Marquise Noel. I mean, this guy is from New York. His literal handle is Mr. New York City. This guy has pictures of him with Kemba Walker, and Kemba Walker has a freaking Dykeman jersey on. It's probably the most New York picture I've ever seen. So Marquise Noel in this game, if you weren't watching, you missed history. This guy broke and set the NCAA assist record. And in the first half, I mean, literally in the first half, this guy has double-digit assists. He has 10 assists, and he should have had 11 assists. Like at the end of the half, he throws a behind-the-back pass that should have been an open layup, but then it was a foul. It ended up being a foul on the floor, but that's all besides the point. That's how insane Marquise Noel was in this game. And it started from literally the very start of the game. The first play of the game for Kansas State is a Marquise Noel lob to Keontae Johnson. And that kind of set the tone for, all right, we're going to have ourselves a day here in Madison Square Garden. I'm going to be honest, before going into the day, I thought that the CBS games in Vegas were the must-see games. You gotta watch these games. This was the first game of the day, and it started, I mean, absolutely, it was electric. That's probably the best word for it. And once again, our guy, Jerome Tang, coach of Kansas State, he has an in-game interview with Allie LaForce, and I thought he had a great little nugget that he pointed out. And he said, we got to watch Joey Hauser as a transition trailer 3. That's something that they're getting. We're trying to make sure we don't give that up. And they adjusted, and I feel like Jerome Tang is one of those coaches that when he does those interviews, he actually does give you something that's a little bit of insight, so I appreciated that. This also was an NYC point guard showdown. Marquise Noel, of course, I already told you about his history, but then you got Tyson Walker with the Michigan State, and, I mean, these two guys, they're just going back and forth in this game, and Noel, the big kind of shift in this game. He has an ankle injury in the second half, kind of changed the game. It ends up leading to a Michigan State run. They tie the game up at 50-50 with about 14-10 to play. And, Keontae Johnson, right after that, he has this amazing, he threw the ball off the back of Malik Hall. Like, this is like schoolyard stuff. I mean, throws it off his back, catches it, and gets an easy layup. And it felt like they were just trying to survive this Sparty run. Sparty goes on an 11-2 run. And then all of a sudden, Marquise Noel enters the game again. This guy it looked like he could barely walk. And then all of a sudden, it's a broken play. He literally just throws up a prayer three-pointer, banks off the glass, goes in. And when you're playing in a game and you see someone do something like that, you're saying to yourself, oh, my God, this might be their day. Joey Hauser, four made threes in this game. I mentioned he was a focal point of Jerome Tang. He also hit a 3 to win the race to 69. We're going to talk about that later, but he hit the 3 to win the race to 69. Remember the MSG/Big Ten stat of the day? The 7 seed, the last 2 times in Madison Square Garden, has moved on to the Final Four. Michigan State was the 7 seed. They also won the race to 69. I'm saying to myself, oh no, this is looking like a Tom Izzo special. He's on his way. And then Kansas State, they just go on a 10-0 run. Masood hits a 3 to give them the lead, 77-70. Then hits another one, 80-75. And I mentioned Kemba at the start of the show, and Marquise Noel literally had the score is 80-78. Noel is so amazing with his passing. Like I said, it was a passing clinic. But at this point in time, Michigan State's not even looking at him to score. They're so worried about him passing the basketball that he takes like a vintage Kemba step back mid-range elbow jumper to give them an 82-78 lead in Madison Square Garden, right? And it just felt like, oh my goodness, right? This is exactly what you expect from these two teams. And from there, it was just a back and forth. We end up tied 82-82. Tyson Walker with the left-handed finish. You didn't want to foul him there because then he could have got the and one, but 82-82, we go to overtime. This is the first overtime game since 2017. And when we get into overtime, I mean, after the game, Marquise Noel, he said, it was like a Rocky fight tonight. It was absolutely a Rocky fight. And the moment, the thing that will be remembered from this game, I saw some people were calling it the argue oop, which I think is a great way to describe this. But with about less than a minute to play, we're in overtime. It's 92-92, tie basketball game. Jerome Tang is on the sideline. He's yelling out a play to Marquise Noel. Noel is like arguing back to him, but then immediately just kind of just changes course. Keontae Johnson cuts, and he throws the lob to Keontae Johnson, dunks it 94-92, like the critical play in the game right there. And, there's been a lot of conversation. I saw Jay Wright saying that Tang was actually trying to call a play, and then Noel was like, no, we don't need that play. And then, just instincts caught him. He saw it, peripheral, through the pass. I personally think, Kyle, this reminded me of, have you seen The Longest Yard with Adam Sandler? Not the first one with Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, I've
the
seen
second.
them both.
Of course. Yeah, we've all seen them both. But I feel like for this reference, we're going to talk about the second one because it reminded me of the Burt Reynolds. Remember when they go for two, Adam Sandler, his character, what's his name? Paul Crewe.
Yeah.
Paul Crewe walks over to the sideline, Burt Reynolds' character, and he's like, "What are you doing, old man? You're probably like, well, what are you saying? What?" And then they snap the ball, and then it's like it's basically a trick play. That's what I thought this was. I really do. I think Jerome Tang and Marquise Noel were keen. Like, Michigan State kind of rested. They took a breath. They took a beat because they're like, okay, these guys are figuring out what they're doing. And then they just caught them when they were off guard, threw the lob, bang. That was pretty much the game. And then there was also a great baseline out of bounds set that Tang drew up. Went for Masood, who ended up hitting a shot to get up 96-93. Then, Michigan State throws it all around the perimeter late in this game. They can't get a three up. Steal from Noel. He goes down. He finishes. And he ends up with 20 points, 19 assists, 5 steals. Again, this is an NCAA tournament record, 19 assists. The record before was 18. So back in 1987. So there you go. I mean, that's the big time moment there. Noel was incredible. And my favorite part was they get the win. They're in Madison Square Garden. This is home court, home country for Marquise Noel. They give the shot. They give him, the camera moment, and he's just saying, "This is my city."
He claims the city.
This is my city. This is my city. And Kyle, you're from New York.
Get out.
You get it. You get it.
This is my city. Get out.
And to be able to say that in, Madison Square Garden, in the Mecca, I found it amazing. This was between this game and the UCLA Gonzaga game. I don't know which game was the better game, but I do know that Jerome Tang and Kansas State and Michigan State and Tom Izzo, everybody showed up and gave their A game today. Nobody backed down. I think that first lob dunk, at the start of the game, it felt like Kansas State could punk, Michigan State potentially, but it didn't. They ended up, Sissoko had a big dunk and a big lob a couple plays later. They were kind of like, we're here. We're going to answer the bell. Going to overtime, this game deserved overtime. We, as fans of basketball, we deserve this kind of quality of game. So shout out to Jerome Tang. Shout out to Kansas State going to the Elite Eight. Tip of the cap to Tom Izzo. I mean, a guy who's gone to 8 Final Fours. But with Tom Izzo and with Michigan State bowing out, we have news, Kyle. This is good news for all the people at home who like new teams to win. We officially have no head coaches with a national title in the tournament right now. So one coach is going to get their first national championship this season. So there you go. Could it be Jerome Tang? Could it be Mark Few, a guy who's been knocking on the door for quite some time? I don't know, but I do know we're getting good basketball games. As I said at the start of this tournament, the first round, we do want Cinderella upsets. Of course we do. But after that, we want chalk. We want good basketball games. We want good teams moving on. So shout out to Kansas State for making that happen.